Hello, welcome to Win Some Lose More. My name is Dieter Loosemore and you join me for a review. I've not done one of these in a while. And it's a bit of a spoilers if you've seen any of my other videos, but I really quite like this game. This is Disney Lorcana. This came out at the tail end of last year. This is on its second set. By the time this is up, the third set's about to come out. So this is based purely on the first two sets, the first chapter and Rise of the Floodborn. I've played a fair amount of this, I've been enjoying it, but I wanted to go through kind of the categories that I've discussed a long time ago. I'll put the link wherever the eye appears on the screen to what I'm looking for within a game, breaking down those categories, but I'll go through them now. I'm not going to do the rules. I've done a separate video that should be live now as well of how the game works, just a rough rules that goes with that. But I wanted to talk about Disney Lorcana and, again, spoilers, why I think personally it's a good game, or at least one that really suits me. I grew up collecting Pokemon cards. I honestly actually don't think I've ever played a game of Pokemon cards, but certainly played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Had the odd experience, not an odd, but like the odd here and there experience of Magic the Gathering. So trading card games, those types of things, again, if you watch the top 50 I did with my brother recently, there's a lot of those kind of card powers type games that just works well for me. The categories that I like to talk about here are the mechanisms, the theme, the art, the graphic design, the production quality, and the audience, who's it for. Now, mechanically, from what we've seen from the first two sets, relatively simple, straightforward, welcoming stuff. Certainly from the first chapter, it's very, relatively, not very, and I'll explain that in a minute, relatively simple, easy access type mechanisms. You go for lore or you control the board, that's about it. Yes, there's things to boost your fighting power. Yes, there are ways sometimes to boost your lore collection from questing, but there's not many keywords, and honestly the second set, Rise of the Floodborn, doesn't really add too many more. So as kind of an entry to a trading card game style thing, either head to head, in this case it does wider, we'll get to that with the audience, it's quite welcome, it's quite accessible. Now, I have taught this to brand new people that have never played this style of game and haven't really played many hobby games, and it hasn't been as accessible as I was expecting, but after a full play everyone's gone, oh okay, I get it, because the core mechanisms of you can put an ink out, nice, you may then use that ink to bring out as many cards as you can afford, nice and simple. Now use those cards to your heart's content, once per card usually, unless a rule breaks that, to either quest, to get lore, boosting that some way, or to take on your opponent and doing that some way. The really nice twist of, if you use your card, that makes them available to be targeted back next turn, just works really well. So the flow of this works really well. There's a nice breakdown, clear turn structure that I just think works. So it's relatively simple, it's engaging mechanically, there's not too much that you can do to mess with the other person. Yes, there are more cards now of putting them back in your opponent's hand or something like that, but it's quite a simple, at the moment, streamlined set of mechanisms. I know they're adding even more with the next set, the Inkland set. I get that it will get more complex and I may not be able to keep up with the meta as it goes, but as it is, a relatively simple, welcoming, mechanical set that just, you've got the two things really that you want to do, either get lore or control the board so that they can't. Nice and simple, nice and approachable, mechanically simple keywords. There's not many, and everything's explained still on the cards. Even it gives you the keyword, it then within the brackets explains that, which actually, theme, next I'm going to leave for a minute, go to graphic design. Because the way that card is laid out, with that text explaining what that keyword means, with the clear symbology of what the how you quest, what power or attack, I'd have to check, versus your kind of defense and health, those two stats there, have a sun or a shield. So not only is it just here's two numbers or here's it worded out, it's still relatively pictorial. It's by no means language independent. Pretty much all card has text, but most of the card taken up by the picture with all the information that you need, which color it belongs to. That only really matters for deck construction. And yeah, all the information is just really present, really salient. It's just there in front of you. Even if you're unsure on a symbol, there's only about 4 or 5 symbols to know. So it's really easy. Each deck comes with like a quick rules, which just explains those really simply. So the design of each card, in my opinion, really clear, really helpful, and really functional. And yet now, as we talk about the theme and the art, really pretty, again, for me. I'll talk about theme first and kind of dab into art with that as well. This is Disney. Disney is everywhere. You'd be hard pushed to find somebody who has never watched a Disney product of some description. And so the breadth of characters available is massive. There's, is it 100 years? Yeah, 100 years now of content, really, of characters that they can draw upon, and that's fascinating. And yet within each set, they've contained it to a subsection of that. A broad one, but a subsection. And, it just engages me. You can not like Disney. That's okay. This might therefore not be for you. But typically, Disney for most people is inoffensive at worst for most people. Beyond that, you get lots of people that love Disney. And so this immediately is a really clever, engaging theme. Now, what they've done with those characters is that there are different versions of those characters. The theme in this is that we are essentially creating these characters out of this magical ink to do what we wanted. And so, using that ink is kind of drawing those characters, painting those characters so that they can't be used the first turn they come out. Pretty common in these types of games. And then they come out and they can be of use. It's a silly one. You can ignore the theme entirely and just go, it's Disney. That you can do. There is a narrative there. The rulebook for each set kind of adds more to that story. They produce videos to go alongside each set that kind of expand that story. So the story's there if you want it. But the fundamental theme is, here's loads of Disney characters, let's have fun with them. Do these powers make sense to these characters? Yeah, I think they do. And the ones that don't, they've justified with, Rise of the Floodborn, there's the normal Storyborn, here's what they're like in the films that you've seen them in. The Dreamborn, here's a slightly different version of them. And then this Floodborn, this calamity's happened, and so they've had to take on these different personas. And so there's these wild versions of these cards, like the lava Scar from The Lion King, but he's made of lava. But, so they've kind of given themselves an out in some ways to justify some pretty crazy stuff. But if you like a character, you can just add loads of cards to your deck that are that character. That's fascinating to me. It's the same as, say, Marvel Champions, something like that, where there's such a breadth of characters that go, well, I want to use these people, so I'm only going to buy those packs. Harder to do with this, because it's the booster system. You buy a pack of random cards. And within each set, as I say, there's a subset of characters. You can't just pursue individual characters necessarily, but once you have some cards, you can go, oh, I like this film, oh, I like this film, oh, I like this character. Let's put those together, see how that works. Really cool. And then on top of that, the art, as I say, it's Disney. It's high quality art. They either look like they should in the films, or there are some really interesting experimental versions now, art style. I'm not an expert on whatsoever, but it feels like Disney. It feels like the versions of them that I've seen, even if they're the crazy version, the lava Scar that I mentioned. Like, even if it's a bit bizarre, the art style feels like Disney. So they've managed to hold that cohesively, again, to reinforce that theme, again, to make that more inviting. And production quality. it's a mixture. The card quality is exactly what I want it to be. Yes, I like fancy, thick, linen finish cards. I do. These aren't necessarily that. These are not the top quality cards. But you get other games with really thin, flimsy feeling. But you're interacting with these cards a lot, so they need to be relatively robust, relatively hardy. And I feel like they do that. The cards are a good quality. The print quality, I've not found any kind of faults, smudges, blurs, lines being in strange places. I know it's just a deck of cards, but the quality's pretty good in terms of what you're interacting with primarily. The things that I go, ooh, it's a mix, are the tokens. Now, this keeps the price point lower. Weirdly, the price point of Lorcana is a bit higher than many other TCGs, but it keeps it accessible. But that means the token quality for damage, the lore trackers, are just a really thin bit of cardboard, which is fine. They're functional, they do the job, they're not your main thing, you're focused on the cards. But I'd like better tokens. And I know you can buy them separately. You can buy the bigger boxes like this one that have slightly improved versions. But it is the only area that I go, ooh, it's okay. It's okay. After a few plays, they're going to bend, they're going to wear, they're going to whatever. Even punching them out of the punch board that they come in is almost worrying, because they might tear because they're so thin. That's my one kind of complaint in the production. The boxes are fine. Card quality, perfect for this. To be able to store lots of them, you don't want them too thick. To be able to, that you're shuffling, that you're constructing decks and putting things in and out, so they need to be consistent, like their backs need to be consistent across sets, the colouring needs to be consistent. All good, and as I say, that art style is just good. So the production as a product, this is a good product. It's just those tokens that make me go, they're okay. Ultimately, my point is audience. This opens up, in my opinion, trading card games to a wider audience, a wider potential audience than previous trading card games. Now, Pokemon was absolutely huge. I'm the right age that the Game Boy games came out, the cartoons started. Like, it has been this cultural phenomenon for the last 30 years-ish. And so it's really strong. Magic the Gathering within gamers is not going to die anytime soon, particularly at the moment they're introducing well-known themes and IPs. The Lord of the Rings set that happened, and there was this huge news story when somebody found the One Ring. Like, they're within the public consciousness, certainly. But as I say, essentially everybody knows what Disney is and has seen at least one Disney film or cartoon or product or something. Disney Plus is, one of the growing streaming platforms. There's every chance you've seen and enjoyed some form of Disney character and might want to play with them. And this is a way to do that. Now, I'll bring back what I mentioned earlier about who I've taught this to and who I think it's for. I nearly bought this for two of my nieces because they play some games, they like Disney. I'm now almost glad I didn't. I might wait a couple of years, see how the game progresses and go from there. Not because I don't think they could handle it, but because it's a brand new style of game. I've taught this to people that have never played this style of game before. And it wasn't quite as intuitive as I was expecting. For me it was, and I took it to some friends down in London, and they got it essentially immediately, and we had a lot of fun with it that weekend. But I've taught it to people that have never played this style of game. And it's almost just one too many things to think about. They get how they're trying to win. They get ink to some degree, but that choice of what do I ink, what do I not, actually there's some symbology of what can be inked and what can't. There's just those slight twiddles and fiddles that go, is this an openly accessible game to everybody? Is this something for children? Now, maybe 8 up works. Actually, can't off the top of my head think what the age on the box says. I think it is 8. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's about right, and I was aiming about that, maybe slightly younger, and I'm now going, probably not. This requires, even the first chapter, even the most stripped down basic version of this, requires a little bit of intuition for how these games work. Anyone that's played anything like this before goes, oh, this is really simple, there's almost nothing there, what's the difference between the colours? And yet somebody that's never approached it goes, wait, hang on, so I draw a card, okay, what do I do now? How do I do the thing? Oh, I've got to ink it. Okay, what's inking? What do I do? Which one can I do? Do I want to use this card? Is it still that card when it's face down? No, it's not. It's just ink. It's gone forever. How do I... Oh, I can't use them this turn. There's nothing to say that. Okay, we have to reinforce the theme that they're drying, that the painting has to dry before they're functional. You know, they've tried to justify it. They really have. But I wonder if it is a little step up from you've never played anything before. It might be too complex for that. Introduce other things first. I don't know what I would suggest even. But this wasn't as accessible as I was hoping. Amongst anybody that's played anything like this, super accessible. You get it in an instant. You have a lot of fun with it. My other big point with audience, yes, wide range, because it's Disney. Yes, wide range, because it's relatively simple and accessible. The other thing is this is not only a head-to-head one-on-one duel like a lot of these games can be. I think the box says up to 6. I've done 4, I've done 3, I've done 2. It's a really good multiplayer game. I was not expecting that in the slightest. You know, I'm so used to be honest, Yu-Gi-Oh! And I have done multiplayer Yu-Gi-Oh! 3 of us, maybe 4 of us, and done little tournament type things. Like, I've done that. But the rules are designed for one-to-one, so the language on the card, whereas this just says each opponent. It invites you to play with multiple people. And actually that tension of pushing up the lore track to get to 21st, it's a race, it's actually enriched by more players. I thought it would be convoluted or just feel like I'm just waiting longer for my turn because there aren't the number of cards that do the direct interaction, blah, blah, blah. It didn't. It really didn't. This was fun. This was engaging. We had a lot of interesting times of going, okay, let's shuffle up and do it again. And, you know, somebody different won. It wasn't that I've played a bit more of the game and I taught it, so I won every time. No, the way the decks are constructed, the way that, you know, you're just going to get luck of the draw sometimes because it is that simple. Yes, there's still strategies that emerge, but ultimately, who do you target? There's a little bit of not king making, but like keeping people in check. Who am I targeting with this? Does this just do everybody? Am I boosting myself? There are decisions in here that are really satisfying at a multiplayer beyond just the normal head-to-head. Now, I would probably most commonly and comfortably play this one-to-one, but I would never ever turn down an opportunity to play this multiplayer. I did not expect it in the slightest. So overall, this is a great product for me. Somebody with a very loose and historical understanding of trading card games and card powers and this type of thing. Lovely product. I'm not the biggest Disney fan in the world, but I grew up with it. It's something that I'll still happily watch a lot of the time. And so it just works for me. And, you know, I'm having fun building decks, which I'm bad at, but I'm having fun building decks with, oh, let's build a princess deck. Let's take almost a sub-theme within Disney and construct stuff around that. I've got lots of Sleeping Beauty, lots of Moana. Let's put those in. Like, there's a flexibility inherent within its breadth of audience that I'm just having fun with, and I think you could too. Take a look at the rules video to see what you think for yourself, but this is comfortably one of my top games from last year. It's currently one of my top games. Like I say, check out our top 50 that we did a few weeks ago, but this came pretty high for me, and I really strongly recommend it if you like any of the things that I've discussed, either the trading card games or Disney, or just you're getting into board games and you want a relatively accessible card game type thing. This will do that. It's now more widely available than it was. The print run, initial one, caused some upset, but it's out there now. Do check it out. I'm looking forward to the third set, seeing what that does. I know that was just a ramble of why I like it more than just a true review, but that's Disney Lorcana for me. Thank you very much for watching. Do subscribe to the channel if you don't already, and hit the bell icon so you stay updated when I put out new things. In the meantime, do find me on social media. I'm on all the usual platforms. Just search Win Some Lose More. It'd be great to connect with you. Until next time, I've been Dieter for Win Some Lose More. See you again. Bye.